Hello, my name is Elijah Wells and today's review is Greta Gerwig's new film, Barbie. Based off the massively popular toy line of the same name by Mattel, it follows Barbie, played by Margot Robbie of course, who's basically a Barbie girl in a Barbie world. Life is plastic, it's fantastic, as he resides in Barbie land, which is almost like a reverse patriarchal society where women have pretty much most of the jobs, and they pretty much govern into to a sense it was very sufficient and very successful in its own running. And one day Barbie, played by Margot Robbie, has a sudden existential crisis where she's beginning to think about morbid things about death. So, of course, with the help of the weird Barbie and Ken, played by Ryan Gosling, must go out to none other than California in a journey of self-discovery and try to bond up with a mother and daughter who, we'll just say, are not getting along in the real world, and their Barbie somehow plays a role into it. Greta Gerwig and the film's co-writer Noah Baumbach have been massively prolific, particularly in the indie film scene, with its director Gerwig, who is known for films like Lady Bird and Little Woman, the recent film with Saoirse Ronan, and her husband Noah Baumbach, who is known for films like Squid and Whale, Frances Ha, and Marriage Story, and of course the more recent Netflix film White Noise. And for them to branch out into more big budget territory with a movie with a $140 million price tag onto it and completely obliterating the box office with the help with none other than Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer and the joint marketing frenzy that both films had caused on social media and in the real world, it's safe to say that there was no real escaping from Barbie, particularly how much grasp it had since the 1950s from its inception around that point, and how it's grown and grown to be such a pivotal toy to a lot of girls and a lot of people across many generations. Outside of the media frenzy that was Dan Oppenheimer, which I'll do the other review fairly soon, the movie itself is something I personally didn't have the greatest amount of expectations towards, because I did not play with Barbie dolls just because I was a boy, and of course it'll probably be perceived as a bit strange. But again, I just came in the movie with not the biggest expectations for it, and I actually ended up really liking the movie at the end. Even though this is definitely one of more ethereal, more existential of what I thought this movie is going to be, and this is basically how what Ken's do in the right scope of a Barbie land, and what Barbies contribute to their world and what our world kind of gives back to them. Like, it's almost how our relationship with these plastic toys pretty much almost has quite a lot of different readings about it, which is something that has been explored in a couple of patterns throughout the movie, and how it pays nods to like famous toy lines, particularly within that from Barbie, like the pregnant one that was discontinued, and ones that are doing like numerous jobs, from like being a doctor, being a lifeguard, being an astronaut, and being a construction worker, being a president, being a Supreme Court justice. Like, it's almost like a whole smorgasbord of jobs, like more you can find on Indeed. Like, it kind of like encapsulate the world building of Barbie like extremely well, even for someone that probably had no real interest in it as a kid. The soundtrack in the movie is actually really good. Like, it has like works of Dua Lipa, and there's Lizzo in the film, and there's Sam Smith, who they are going through a massive resurgence in their career so far. And there's also, I think my favourite at the moment is probably Billie Eilish's What Am I Made For, who, again, no secret, I really like a lot of Billie Eilish's songs, but this one's like really good as well, in my opinion. So I'm kind of hoping that it kind of gets submitted to like more major awards like Golden Globes and Oscars with like original songs. But again, I'm just hoping this is like a really good soundtrack. And also the humor in this movie is actually really, really brilliant. Like, the narrator being Helen Mirren, pretty much breaking the fourth role, and with the musicians and with the audience, being like, when Barbie's just having a bit having a letdown, a moment where she felt let down, like, this is at this point where Margot Robbie is not a good actress, or Barbies don't naturally go downstairs, they usually float downstairs, float down the building, like, and Lizzo would say, okay, back to my song, and she continues on a song, like, Helen Mirren's, like, playful narration, yet very sincere, very sophisticated, particularly when it's played in the now very famous opening scene, which is essentially his teaser trailer, where it paid homage to 2001 Space Odyssey, where she was basically this pillar like sculpture, and all the kids are smashing up their dolls, which is just a thing of beauty to see on the big screen. The humour does technically go into more patriarchal territories. Again, this is, like I said earlier, is basically how Barbie played a massive role to everyone else's childhood, and how, in this movie, how everyone else's childhood kind of plays a part in Barbie's role. Like, it's this correlating relationship, which is extremely intriguing, in my opinion, and particularly the world buildings are pretty intriguing. Like, there's Barbie Land, where it's almost where the heredity of the system is largely led by females, while and they believe that the world outside is all good, is all perfect, but in the outside real world, it's a lot of catcalling, a lot of harassment, and a lot of like belittling of Barbie, and just being put down in a way that's not comfortable for Barbie. To the point she does feel a lot of emotions, like being like really conscious about herself. Particularly as she does wear a lot of spandex and a lot of neon colours, which does make some sense. Again, what I find really engrossing about this movie is definitely its design work. Like, even though the real world is admittedly somewhat basic, except for Mattel, where it's like mostly office blocks, and one is just top floor is basically the entire CEO meetup room, and they all like try to roll into Barbie all in roller skates, and they're all wearing suit and tie, which is just so hilarious. And the world building, not to be too distracted, is I think Barbie Land is admittedly a more of a captivating world, in my opinion. Like, a lot of pink, so much so that they actually caused a pink paint shortage. And it's almost like one of these old toys that, again, you don't just get the Barbie, you get the entire Barbie toy, like Barbie house, a Barbie town, a Barbie car. Like, they did a lot of like lot of genius designs about this movie, like ideas, like kind of like come, I'm not sure, almost organically, but taking a lot of inspirational liberties, particularly how much of it would have been archived and been passed through generations, through certain iterations. Ken, being played by Ryan Gosling, does have his time to shine, particularly in the second half of the movie, where he teaches the Barbie Land, or all the Kens in Barbie Land, the wonders of patriarchy, and pretty much puts a woman in essentially what was like the 1950s, as in they don't have a lot of jobs and they're not too successful and they're not too sufficient, and maybe a kind of confident, but in a way they were pretty much brainwashed to be confident in a new 1950s-esque setting. But I wish they kind of explained it a little bit more and kind of fall through into that concept a little bit more in the third act. But his answer to patriarchy is a lot of horses and like 5 TVs in like one house. Like, okay, I think that's the same amount for like a small apartment, but 5 in one house may be kind of stretching your ego. Like, I think there is a brilliant plan of like all the Barbies just breaking all of Ken's ego in like very sufficient ways, and brainwashing each, deprogramming each of the Barbies to unlearn the 1950s patriarchy system, which again I wish they kind of had a little a bit more commentary, particularly with the mother of the real world in the movie, kind of explaining that okay, that she's an old person, that the world is kind of messed up, but we kind of have to suck up to it. Again, something I wish might be a little bit more followed through, but I'm very satisfied how it came out. Barbie, directed by Greta Gerwig, is a major crowd pleaser, and it's definitely a very likable, very charming comedy about the consequences of patriarchy in a way that's very, very comedic and very light on a heart and very light on a tone, and explores the massively contextualized history of Barbie and what's relationship to the world and what's the world's relationship to Barbie, and how Kens are perceived from Barbies and vice versa, and basically the entire world building is just really, really immaculate in my opinion, and the music is incredible, even though I'm not too into today's pop music in my opinion, and that it's just I had so much laughs at this movie. I was just constantly giggling with the rest of the audience in that movie. Like there was like a whole smorgasbord of comedy bits, and also the kind basically Barbie's way of thinking about dealing with new emotions and having a full-blown existential crisis and a journey of self-discovery is something is gonna be more warranted for, with like repeated viewings and even fan screenings. So I'm feeling an 8.5 out of 10 for Barbie. So, what do you think of Barbie? Let me know in the comments, like this video, subscribe to my channel, follow me on Twitter and Instagram, and this is Larger Worlds, and bye!